This is Tales from the Food, and today we are talking about Harald Hadrada. Harald Hadrada was born in Ringerike, Norway, in 1015. His father was an influential petty king in the region. Harald admired one of his three older half-brothers, Olaf. They both had big ambitions for the future. In 1030, Olaf returned to Norway after being exiled from it during a botched revolt. Harald and his men joined up with Olaf's forces and fought the king of the Danes, Canute, at the Battle of Stiklestad. Olaf was killed in the fighting, and a badly wounded Harald quickly fled the country. After journeying far and wide, Harald found himself in Kievan Rus. This is where the ruler of Kievan Rus, Yaroslav the Wise, met Harald with open arms due to the fact that Yaroslav's wife was a close relative of Harald. After serving in some military campaigns for Yaroslav, Harald decided to join the Varangian Guard with his men to serve the Byzantine Empire. After many battles and many payments from the emperors, Harald was quite well off. Sadly, the emperor died, and in the following chaos, Harald was able to escape after a brief stint in Byzantine prison. Now absolutely rolling in dough, Harald decided to travel back home to Scandinavia, where he found that Olaf's son, Magnus, had taken over much of Norway from the late Canute. They co-ruled for a while, but sadly, Magnus died, as some people seem to do, in 1047. Magnus had chosen a local noble named Svein Estridsson to rule Denmark after his death, so a war ensued between Harald's Norwegian loyalists and Svein's Danish territories. After many battles with Svein and the Danes, the two kings finally agreed to a white peace. Now, with nothing to do but actually be a king, Harald decided to do just that. This is where Harald got one of his epithets, Hadrada, which has been translated to various descriptions, most being in the realm of hard ruler or tyrant. Harald kind of just saw a problem and annihilated it. During his reign, Harald took some time to chill out by exploring the lands within his kingdom. Harald truly now had nothing to do, so he looked to start some wars. Before his death, Magnus had signed a treaty with another Viking king named Harthacnut. The two agreed that the signer who died first would have his land given to the other, or something along those lines. Sadly, Harthacnut cheated and instead gave his lands to his brother, Edward the Confessor. Magnus wanted to take the land back, but died before preparations were finished. Edward was also backed by the real king of England, the Godwinsons. So Harald began plotting, scheming, planning, formulating. He and his allies pulled together about 17,000 men and 312 ships. Quiet, Umvert, you're such a bad whistler. Maybe, Harald, but at least I have a loving and supportive family. Now making landfall, Harald's forces began raiding the English coast, destroying population centers and achieving victories against the small armies of English nobles. These victories would be his last. On the 25th of September, Harald and two-thirds of his forces began rolling out. Their plan was to take the city of York and pillage it. Expecting only light resistance, they brought their lower-end armor and prepared for crowd control. Harald's scouts saw a crowd in the distance, but it was no peasant rabble. It was a heavily armored army of English soldiers led by the King of England, Harald Godwinson. Now cornered, Harald's soldiers gathered at Stamford Bridge, where they made their stand. The two armies clashed. In the fighting, Harald was hit in the neck by an arrow, and he quickly died. His opponent, other Harald, also died of an arrow-related injury just a while later, when fighting the Normans in southern England. In conclusion, the battle at Stamford Bridge was a resounding English victory, total Viking failure. This was Tales from the Food, and this was the story of Harald Hadrada.